Hello and welcome everyone to the Community of Practice for Inclusive Career Pathways, brought to you by Wintec, LEAD, and Southeast ADEA Center. Listening to the webinar. The audio for today's webinar is being broadcast through your computer. Please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. You can control the audio broadcast via the audio broadcast panel. If you accidentally close the panel, you can reopen by going to the Communicate menu at the top of the screen and choosing Join Audio Broadcast. If you do not have sound capabilities on your computer or prefer to listen by phone, please dial 1-415-655-0001, type in the meeting code 665-496-397. You do not need to enter an attendee ID. Captioning. Real-time captioning is provided during this webinar. The captions can be found in the Media Viewer panel, which appears in the lower right corner of the webinar platform. If you do not see the captions, you may need to open the Media Viewer panel by selecting the Media Viewer button in the upper right corner of the webinar platform. If you want to make the Media Viewer panel larger, you can minimize other panels like Chat, Q&A, and/or Participants. Submitting questions. For Q&A, please use the Q&A panel to send any questions you have during the webinar, and we will direct the questions accordingly during the Q&A portion. If you are listening by phone and not logged into the webinar, you may also ask questions by emailing them to Shannon Edom at sedam@ndi-inc.org. Please note, this webinar is being recorded and the materials will be placed on LEAD's website at www.leadcenter.org. They will also be available at wintec.org a few days after the event on the Career Pathways Community of Practice site. For technical assistance, if you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to send a message to the WebEx host, LEAD Center, or email Shannon Edom at sedam@ndi-inc.org. Our first person presenting today is Dr. Rebecca Salon from the LEAD Center, and I'm happy to turn it over to her.
Thank you so much, Shannon, and welcome everyone. For those of you who may be new to the Community of Practice on Inclusive Career Pathways, the Community of Practice supports and shares ideas and insights into how to more effectively plan, implement, and engage in career pathways to increase career opportunities for people with disabilities. So members come together to share common interests or common goals. They engage in joint activities and discussions, share information, build relationships between Community of Practice members that enable them to learn from each other, and share resources, including their experiences, stories about successes they've had, resources like tools and ways that they're dealing with recurring problems. Wintec hosts this Community of Practice, and you can join if you're not a member by going to www.wintec.org to access all of the information that's available there. So I'd like to introduce the team that's providing the webinar today. I'm Rebecca Salon. I'm Project Director of the LEAD Center, and I'll tell you about the LEAD Center in a moment. We're also joined by Brian Ingram and Nikki Powis, who are both Technical Assistants and Training Managers for the Workforce Innovation Technical Assistance Center, Wintec. And we're happy to be joined by Barry Whaley, who's the Director of the Southeast ADEA Center. And you'll get to hear a bit about both Wintec and the ADEA Center in a moment before we get to our main presenter of the day. So let me tell you a little bit about the LEAD Center. We are the National Center on Leadership for the Employment and Economic Advancement of People with Disabilities, LEAD for short. We're a collaborative of disability, workforce, and economic empowerment organizations led by National Disability Institute with funding from the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy, ODEP. And our mission is to advance sustainable individual and systems level change that results in improved competitive integrated employment and economic self-sufficiency outcomes for people across the spectrum of disabilities. And we've given you some ways to reach out to Lead Center. I encourage you to go to our website, and specifically related to career pathways, we have a lot of information. We have the information organized into areas, one being workforce development and WIOA, another on customized employment, a large section of resources on cross-system collaboration, and one on financial literacy and capability. And those all have information that would be relevant to creating inclusive career pathways. We also link you to the DRIVE website, which stands for Data and Resources to Inspire a Vision of Employment. DRIVE has enormous resources about what's available in your state to support disability employment, as well as other resources that you can link, and data about from many sources about disability employment nationally and in your state. With that, I'd like to introduce Brian to tell you a little bit about Wintec. Brian?
Thanks, Rebecca. And thanks, everybody, for joining us today. And let me tell you a little about Wintec. Wintec's funded through the Rehabilitation Services Administration and supports state vocational rehabilitation agencies and their partners in effectively implementing the requirements of WIOA. We invite you to visit our website at www.wintec.org, where you're going to find a wealth of information and resources. We host a forum, which is a place where you can interact with us and with your colleagues around the country, and we welcome new members at any time. If you're a VR agency not yet working with us or wanting to contact us, you can also find a list of technical assistance liaisons, like myself and Nikki, for each state on our site. Okay, I'd like to maybe turn it over to Barry to tell us about the Southeast ADEA Center.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody, and happy National Disability Employment Awareness Month here in October. I'm Barry Whaley. I'm the director at the Southeast ADEA Center. We are one of 10 centers that make up the ADA National Network. We are funded by NIDLR, the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research. And the Southeast ADA Center is a project of the Burton Blatt Institute at Syracuse University College of Law. Often I'm asked, it's kind of peculiar that Syracuse University operates in the Southeast, but when you consider the mission of the Burton Blatt Institute to advance the civic, economic, and social participation of people with disabilities, it makes perfect sense that we operate in the Southeast. The Southeast has one of the largest concentrations of people who have disabilities in the country, and we cover 8 states in this region: Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, and Mississippi. And we provide 4 key services that I want you to be aware of. The first, we provide technical guidance and assistance. You can call our 800 number, 800-949-4232, and talk to a technical assistance representative if you have any questions about the Americans with Disabilities Act. We also provide training to employers, business, government agencies, people with disabilities. Last year, we trained over 2,000 people, both virtually and in person. We also have a number of web courses, and we trained nearly 8,000 people last year on our web courses. And you can find out more about the Southeast ADA Center. Our web address is adeasoutheast.org, or you could learn more about the ADA National Network at adeata.org. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Shannon.
It's actually back to Rebecca, but thank you. That was great, and thank you so much to Brian and Barry for sharing information about your centers and the work that you're doing. So we're very happy to be doing this webinar on adult and continuing education. options and resources to promote inclusive career pathways and employment outcomes. And the whole network of adult and continuing education providers and programs are critically important to the success of career pathways programs for everyone, and especially for people with disabilities, so that they can achieve credentials, be on a real path to a career where there's opportunities for advancement and growth. And we're very happy today to be joined by Michael Cruz. So Michael moderates 2 communities of practice for the U.S. Department of Education's Literacy, Information, and Communication System, or LINCS. LINCS is a professional development platform for the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education, also known as OCTE. His focus is on career pathways, so that's one of the communities of practice that he moderates, and the other is on disabilities and equitable outcomes in adult education. Michael was a vocational evaluator for the Maryland Division of Rehabilitation Services for a decade and continues to work with transition-age students in career and technical education programs. And I've heard Michael speak before about the work that he does and a lot of his involvements. We're very excited he was able to join us today. And with that, I'd like to turn the microphone over to Michael, who's going to walk us through some of his work with LINCS and his 2 communities of practice. Michael?
Thank you, Rebecca. I, again, just want to thank everyone for inviting me today to share a little bit about LINCS and about the 2 communities of practice. I am first and foremost a member of those communities and am not an official representative of the U.S. Department of Education or OCTE. But I really think it's a strong resource that I'm glad that folks are interested in, and I'm happy to provide an introduction to and answer any questions as we go throughout a brief tour today of some of the communities and resources and learning opportunities that are available on the LINCS site. All right. So as you'll see on the page in front of you, or the screen rather, this is the home page for the LINCS platform. And again, you'll see it's a community of practice as well as a series of self-paced online courses and searchable resources. So there are really 3 primary components to the LINCS site. And what I'm hoping to do today is to just give you, again, an overview of those resources and those communities and the courses that apply most to career pathways and as well to supporting learners with disabilities in adult education and career pathways programs.
And Michael, are you ready for me to give the control to you?
Yes, I'm ready whenever you are.
Perfect. You have it now.
Okay, thank you. All right, so bear with me one second here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what happened here. I'm sorry. Give me one second. Okay.
This is Nikki Powis with Wintec, and while we're waiting for Michael to bring the browser up and take a look and navigate through the system, wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that we're going to sort of make this a little bit interactive. So as things are going along, please feel free to type in the chat any questions you may have. We had mentioned to sort of hold questions to the end, but we're going to be looking at the chat and sort of jumping in on Michael and asking some questions as we go along. So as you think of things, please feel free to do that. And it looks like we've got that web page up. So I'll turn it back to you. Just wanted to jump in with that, Michael.
Right. So I'm still not seeing the screen. I'm apologizing, but does everyone else?
You had it just now, and then it looked like it was minimized. I think it's minimized along your bottom panel there, towards the right next to your trash can.
If you'd like, Michael, I can share the website.
That would be wonderful. I apologize.
Yeah, never mind. I think he had it right then. It was right there. But
there we go.
Back to the PowerPoint.
There we go.
Great.
Okay, and so you have control of the slides now, Nikki?
I think Shannon took it back.
Web address. So
I'm sorry.
Community.
Michael, did it come back up for you? Because she can give you control again.
Yes, so now I'm looking at the home page for the site.
Okay, so Shannon, maybe you can switch it back.
So again, just to review a little bit, the links platform is the Department of Education's community resource of community practice, courses, and resources for adult education. And again, we're just going to walk through those three elements of the platform, so the communities of practice, the online courses, and resources. And we'll be able to take a look at one or two of the resources that apply, I think, specifically to consumers with disabilities and career pathways.
So Michael, you have control, but I still see the PowerPoint on the screen. I can either share the website or you can share your screen again.
Okay. So when I click to share my screen, it's then minimizing it, I think.
I'll do it on mine.
That I'm now, okay, great.
Yeah, maybe you can open it up from here, though, Michael. We did have it at one point. Oh, no, we're back again. Okay. Sorry, everybody. You gotta love technology, right?
Yes. If you just, yes, if you just
there you
want
go.
to.
You got it. You got it.
Okay. Okay.
So show me the way, Michael.
Okay, so now you have control, and we're going to actually, at the top on the toolbar, there are the three items that I mentioned, the community, the courses, and the resource collection. So we're just going to start from left to right, starting with the community. So if you want to go ahead and click on that, please. Okay, great. So you should see welcome to the links community. And it says below there's a photo of bird's eye view of some folks talking, and then below that you see a blue link that says log in and create an account. And I'm going to just show folks how they can create an account in Links at a later point in the presentation today. But I also just want to mention that because Links is a federal resource, it's a free resource, and it is a resource that you can access without becoming a member. If you wanted to come in and observe what's being talked about in the communities and look at the course offerings and peruse the resource collection, those are all things that you can do without ever signing up for membership. However, if you want to post in the community, or if you want to access any of the self-paced courses, you do first need to become a member of Links. It's a fairly simple approval process, and again, I'll walk you through that a little bit later, but I just wanted to give everyone an idea that there are resources that are here that do not require you to become a member, and then there are other added resources or benefits if you do sign up to become a member. And you can set the amount of communication you get from Links in terms of new content being posted so that it's not overwhelming. And again, I will show you how to set that up later on in our presentation today. But for now, I just wanted to show you, if we can scroll down a little on this page, the different discussion groups. So as Rebecca said, I moderate 2 of the communities, and they're the first 2 on the left-hand side of the discussion group listing that you see there. So career pathways and disabilities and equitable outcomes. You can see, though, that there are other content areas moderated by other moderators. So we have one that's specifically focused on integrating technology in the adult education classroom and career pathways, professional development for adult educators, a community based specifically on the teaching of reading and writing, another more broadly on teaching and learning, one on correctional and reentry education, one on English language acquisition, math and numeracy, program management, and science. And each of these are individual communities, so as to say that if you become a member of LINCS, you can decide which of those communities you would want to be able to join, be able to access the conversation and contribute to the conversations. You don't have to join all of them. Certainly, you're more than welcome to join as many or as few as you'd like. But if we could go ahead and peek into the Career Pathways community first. So if you could just double click on that Career Pathways logo or the word Career Pathways for me.
Do you see it now, Michael?
So I'm still seeing the Explore These and Other Special Topic discussion groups. I'm not seeing the content for the Career Pathways community yet.
We're seeing it.
Well, you know what? I can actually, if you're seeing it, I can go into the actual website myself so I can see what I'm talking about, and we can do this. All right. So I'm clicking on Career Pathways, and now you should see it says Career Pathways, welcome to the LINCS Career Pathways group. And then it says the group is a community of practice for practitioners, employers, researchers. Is everyone seeing that?
Yes.
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 Great.
Yeah. Can you make it larger, Shannon?
So the general introduction there, I won't read in detail, but just to give you some of the ideas of the topics that are discussed. So it's really an opportunity for coordination between education, training, and social service resources in the community, which certainly includes vocational rehabilitation for many of our adult ed consumers, workforce preparation activities, and post-secondary success and completion, program design, and IET, or what we call integrated education and training, contextualized instruction, standard-based instruction, work readiness skills, dual and current enrollment, so those students who are completing coursework and are also earning credit through generally a community college or some other post-secondary institution. Wraparound services, again, which we would include in our definition in adult education to include vocational rehabilitation, which includes both academic and career counseling, stackable or industry recognized credentials, strategic partnerships, and apprenticeships. So those are just a broad general overview of the types of content and resources that we discuss in the Career Pathways community. If you look on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see a menu, and under the blue Career Pathways, there are different components of the Career Pathways community. So we have discussions, we have bulletins for events, we have documents that are specific, that may be an article, a white paper, a curriculum that are posted in the documents section. Occasionally I will post a poll, again, to try and get a sense of who is in our community of practice. We have a lot of folks who are adult educators as well as program managers, as well as volunteers, librarians, individuals who are coming from industry or from the state level working on workforce development initiatives. So it's sometimes helpful to take a poll on a topic or a subject, and it's a helpful way for me to realize what community is most interested in and what resources are needed to drive events that we hold on links. So several times a year I will hold a discussion with a group of panelists, and other moderators in their communities look for feedback from our members to try and develop those events so that they are responsive to what the community is really looking for and needing in terms of resources and perspective. And that's also listed under events. We also list other organizations' events that are related to career pathways. And the members section is something I'll ask you to click on here. And actually, so we have to, I'm sorry, that's something else. And right now I'm not logged in because I want you to see the site as you would see it without yet being a member. So I can't show you this as much as tell you, because if you are a member, you can go into that members link and see all the other members who are part of the community. When you sign up to become a member, other than your name, we ask for any organizational affiliation, and many members complete the member profile, others choose not to, but it's certainly helpful for us and for other members to get to know each other, just to know, again, basic background in terms of the organization that a member is working with. We also request zip codes so that we can have a general sense of where in the U.S. A member is located, not a specific street address, but a zip code. Can be very helpful to know what part of the country folks are coming from. And then also a photo if you want, just again to put a face with the name. And so when you go into the member list, you can see everyone who is a member, and it's a good way to sometimes learn who else is interested in the same key areas. We also have a field where you can enter more about your specific interests in career pathways. So if you're looking for specific information about supporting individuals with disabilities, it's a good way to see who else is in the community who has those similar interests. And again, we can talk a little bit more about that when we go to the section where we're looking how to sign up and become a member of Links. Below that, though, you'll also see the heading microgroups. So within many of the communities of practice, there are also microgroups. And you can see in Career Pathways, we have 3. One specifically working on minority-serving community colleges and their affiliates, one on post-secondary completion, and the third on strengthening manufacturing partnerships, so working with non-education agencies and non-wraparound service agencies, but working more so with industry and developing and strengthening those partnerships. Also, I'll just point out here, as you look at the top to the right, there's a box that has the moderator, which is myself. And you can also contact me through the site. Again, if you're a member or not, if you click on the contact, it will give you my email, which I'm happy to also share with you here today. But you can email me directly if there's something you want to ask offline. Again, that's a feature that once you become a member, you can easily just click on contact and it will auto-populate an email that will come directly to me, and you can ask me any questions or ask for directions for finding resources on the link site. All right, are there any questions? I'll just take an opportunity to ask if there are any questions, I guess, so far, and if not, we can go ahead and peek our head into the Disabilities and Equitable Outcomes community.
Yeah, we don't have any in the chat yet, Michael. I'll let you know. So just a reminder, folks, to type it in.
Great. Okay, so then if we want to go back out to the list of the different communities and take a look, we're going to just briefly dip into the Disabilities and Equitable Outcomes community. and look similarly at kind of what is there. Okay, great. So again, as I said, I'm the moderator for this community as well. So you have that information on the right of your screen, and you see the same general overview of the community and the topics discussed. Again, I won't read all of those for you, but you can see we touch on a lot of the causes and consequences of disability, teaching practices, legal issues related to serving individuals with disabilities, classroom strategies, assistive tech accommodations, and testing. And again, it has the same areas on the left, the discussions, bulletins, documents, polls, events, and members. And there's one microgroup in the Disabilities and Equitable Outcomes community, and that's the Advancing Equity in Career and Technical Education. And that is slightly different than a lot of the other microgroups on the LINCS platform, in that its focus is primarily on secondary education, on career and technical education or CTE programs at the secondary level. So we do have some interaction as we look at different programs that are housed in K-12 facilities at night when students have gone home, and many adult education programs are in practice. They often, more often I would say, are using those spaces in public schools and secondary schools for adult education programs. So there is some overlap there, but generally speaking, there isn't as much microgroup activity within the Disabilities and Equitable Outcomes community, but I think it would really be a fantastic opportunity to look at potentially having a microgroup focused on vocational rehabilitation and how that connects with what teachers are using in their classroom for career pathways to support those individuals with disabilities. So we can go back out again to the main page. I just want to take a look now at the courses. So if we can go up to the toolbar at the top and click on courses, we can look at the different options that are available here. And again, fortunately, the top two are career pathways and disabilities and equitable outcomes. So if we can go ahead and just click on the career pathways bulletin, or even just scroll down since it's all on the same page here, you can see that there are multiple courses, and each one has a title, the number of hours generally that it takes to complete, and then a brief description. And we can talk a little bit about those. I want to also just mention, because this is a key feature which figures into a lot of the participation by adult educators, is that at the end of all of the courses, you are given the opportunity to download and print not a transcript, but more of a certificate of completion. These are ungraded courses, but just a certificate with the designated number of hours completed for professional development purposes. And many of our adult educators are able to use those with their state licensure as it's required by their state to maintain certification or to demonstrate professional development hours on a semi-regular basis. So if that's something that is useful, it's certainly something that is available to non-adult educators, but to folks working in the field of providing wraparound services for adult learners. So that may be a benefit for individuals of this conversation as well. So if we can scroll down a little bit more on the page here, you'll see, again, just some of the titles. So we have a lot focusing on strategic partnerships, again, working with multiple stakeholders from adult education to vocational rehabilitation, to transportation providers and childcare providers, employers, industry partners, workforce development boards. So really creating an opportunity to bring all parties to the table to look at what is needed to build strong and successful career pathways programs. We also have topic on developing effective bridge programs. That's really looking, the bridge being the transition from education to employment, and making sure that learners who complete courses and certificates are provided with networking that helps them make that transition from the classroom to a job. Can everyone still hear me?
Yep, we can hear you just fine, Michael.
Okay, great. I just got a message that I'm no longer connected to the event, but it's automatically reconnecting me. So
we didn't lose you. We can hear you the whole time. Well.
Great, great. All right. So,
and I did see a question that came through that says, are these courses free once you register?
Yes, absolutely. So everything on the LINC site is free, again, because it's an initiative of the Department of Education. All of the resources are free. Membership is free. There's no solicitation permitted on the LINC's platform. So, and I was going to discuss that later, but I can mention it now. So all of our members, when you request membership, part of the information you have to read through and acknowledge states explicitly that because this is a federal resource, there's no solicitation permitted on the site of independent resources that are not in the public domain. So everything, again, on the site is free, and everything that we promote or share with members is open educational resource, or OER, as we like to say in adult education. All right. So, and unfortunately, sure. Are there any other questions?
Not from our panel, but I had one actually about, you know, as we sort of go around the country and provide technical assistance to vocational rehabilitation agencies on career pathways, one of the things that we really sort of talk about is the effectiveness of bridge programs. And so I was interested to see that you have that in there. So within that, are there some examples of different programs and how they're working and how they can really bridge that gap between the two worlds of post-secondary and secondary?
Yes. So if we can take a look at that. Let me go to that page, and if you are able to do the same thing, I can hopefully get us in and show you some examples.
So I did click on the link that said Adult Career Pathways, but I think because I don't have a user account, it's not giving details.
Okay, yeah. And I don't know why you're still seeing me as in the event, but unfortunately my screen is not showing me in the event right now. But yes, so if you are able to log in as a member, and certainly if you are able to see my screen, I could show you what it looks like as a logged in member. But just to suffice to say, we'll look at the resource collection, and I think that will be a little easier for us to access without being logged in. If you're looking at that resource collection, we have a lot of white papers and other freely available published resources that provide good case studies on bridge programs. And within the courses that are addressing bridge programs, rather, there are also general statements about what effective bridge programs look like, and then also case studies of exemplary programs that look at doing just that, at connecting academic and employment options for learners.
Michael
sounds
and Shannon,
great.
this is Rebecca. I am a member and I'm able to log in.
Oh, fantastic.
Would it make sense to have me share my screen for a minute so people can
Yes.
see?
That would be fantastic.
So Shannon.
While that's happening, Michael, this is Nikki again. So having those examples of exemplary bridge programs so folks can really learn and connect and find out, you know, what makes those successful then. And I'm sure that would be beneficial certainly for many folks in our audience to be able to get in and see what those look like, because there are quite some good statistics, I think, that demonstrate that having a bridge program to get you from one sort of step to the other, or from education to employment, or from secondary education into a training or post-secondary education program as well. Is it both?
Yes. So I would say that the focus is more on post-secondary programs, and in that micro group that we spoke about that was advancing equity in career and technical education programs. There are some examples that are primarily or more focused on secondary, but within the larger context and community, it's more focused on post-secondary.
Great, thanks. Looks like we've got all kinds of things going on now, Rebecca.
Yeah. So Michael, I'm on a YouTube screen. Is that where I should be? When I clicked on it, it came up to ACP Developing Effective Bridge Programs, Part 1 of 6. Or is there something that I should go back to?
All right. So if you are, Oh,
I guess I clicked on the webcast. Is that not what I wanted to click on? So there are webcasts.
Yes. So if you are looking at the courses, and you're going down and looking specifically, I'm not sure exactly what you're looking at in terms of where you're seeing the YouTube webcast, but there is a Links YouTube channel, and so many of our web events where we have panelists come on are recorded, and once they go through Section 508 compliance, they're posted on the Links YouTube channel, and so that they can be watched even if an individual wasn't able to attend the live session. So that may be what you're looking at right now.
Yeah, and I'm on an Adult Career Pathways online courses page that lists
I do see an option to enroll in ACP courses, that bright blue button.
Is that what I should do? Click on enroll?
Well, if you're looking at the courses, yes, then you could do that and enroll in that course. And you're welcome to do that if that's something we want to take a look at.
Okay. So I'll click on the Bridge Programs one because that was the one that Nikki had a question about.
So it appears there's a training module and a course evaluation survey. It's very straightforward to enroll, which is encouraging.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm sorry I was kicked off here, but I think I'm back on now. And if you're on the Adult Education Online Courses page, if you're able to go back to that for just a moment, if you click on the hyperlink that, bear with me one second.
Okay, I'm back on that page.
Okay, great. Okay, and so it has the Links Learning Portal.
Yes.
Okay, and if you click on that and you're logged in, you'll see again all of the courses, starting with the ones in Career Pathways. The first one being Workforce Preparation Activities in the Classroom, Contextualizing Employability Skills for Deeper Learning.
Yes.
Okay, great. So again, once you are a member, it's easy to come into this site. All of these courses, they have two icons to the right. One is it's the letter I in the circle, which is just a little more information again about the course. And then next to it, there is a door with an arrow pointing inside of it, which is how you could directly enroll yourself in that class. So again, once you become a member, there's no application or waiting period to access any of these courses. You just need to come in yourself, self-enroll, and you can come in and out. So we talked a little bit about the duration of the courses, which are the hours are given right next to the title on the previous page. But you don't have to complete them in one sitting. You can exit the site, come back to it, and complete it over multiple sessions if you like. And then again, once you've completed the entire session, you have the option of downloading a certificate of completion and using that as evidence of professional development, if so desired. All right. So, and then we can do the same thing, actually, if we go back to the page with Adult Education Online Courses. Below Career Pathways is Disabilities and Equitable Outcomes. And I think that this is a really excellent resource, which would be fantastic to have more individuals from vocational rehabilitation participate in and share perspective on. But the Learning to Achieve curriculum, if you're able to see that.
Under Disabilities and Equitable Outcomes?
So yes, it's under Disabilities and Equitable Outcomes.
I don't see Learning to Achieve.
So if you've gone on to Disabilities and the Equitable Outcomes, which is just below Career Pathways on the Adult Education Online Courses page, and click on that, it should bring up a list of all of the courses, just like on the Career Pathways page, their title, the number of hours, generally that it takes to complete the module, and then a brief description.
And Rebecca, I just sent you the link.
Okay.
And so Learning to Achieve is a research-based resource which is used to increase achievement of adults with learning disabilities. It's a suite of resources designed to build teacher effectiveness in providing instruction to adults with learning disabilities, and it includes an integrated set of research-based resources and professional development materials available for self-study or trainer-led events. Excuse me. So I'm not sure if you're able to see that yet on your screen, but again, I think not yet. Okay. Again, I think it's a
did that come up? No. I can see it on my screen, but I don't think it's up on yours.
No, we have kind of a gray square at the moment. We're back to the PowerPoint. Maybe you could just describe it.
Sure. So again, there's a research, or rather a review of the research literature, Learning to Achieve, literature on employment experiences and outcomes for youth and adults with learning disabilities. and a professional guide to educating adults with learning disabilities. And these are resources that are also included in the resource collection, but they're part of the coursework as well. So if you're completing the course, these are kind of like your textbook, if you will, that you can use to help move through the self-paced course. And in the resource collection, we'll also look at the Learning to Achieve resources, which are pretty robust, I think, in terms of really working with a variety of learners with different types of learning disabilities.
And Shannon was able to pull it up, so it's on the screen now.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
I saw that. So it looks like some of the things on here would be a great way to sort of share information about disabilities to some of the partners that may not have as an expansive knowledge of different types. I saw on the previous screen where it sort of talked about behaviors associated with certain learning disabilities and things like that. So sort of more a sort of a disability awareness as well, perhaps. Is that true, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Because we're, again, the approach is from working with adult educators, many who don't have a background in disability or in working with individuals with disabilities. So the courses and the resources really begin, I would say, from ground zero in terms of building understanding about what the spectrum of disabilities or learning disabilities specifically looks like, different ways that they're classified, their origin, and then strategies to help learners become more developed self-advocates once they've understood kind of the origin and the elements of their disability and accommodations that they can use to support them in the classroom and also on the job site. So, and I'm not sure if you're looking at the different courses, but again, just to give you a general sense, there's a 1-hour course specifically on accommodations. There's an hour-long course on working with English language learners with learning disabilities. That's a frequent topic of conversation. We have one of the communities that we looked at earlier, you saw, is adult English language learners. So we have a lot of conversation with the adult English language learner teachers who struggle with trying to determine whether a student who's struggling in their ELL class or their English language learner class may or may not have a disability, or whether it's really part of the language acquisition process. So there's a lot of good conversation around that, around supporting those learners. There's a course that's really based on neuroscience, and it talks about participants learning the underlying neurobiology of learning disabilities. Some definitions for learning disabilities, that's another course. Self-determination for adults with learning disabilities, and then legal issues, self-disclosure, and confidentiality. And those are all individual courses. You wouldn't have to do them all. And again, it's probably information for your membership that, or for everyone with us today. It may be information that you've heard before, but it's really valuable, I think, for a lot of our adult education community to have that information. And it sometimes is a really good way when you're working with adult educators who maybe aren't as familiar as working with individuals with disabilities to refer them to get a context in the adult education perspective on how to work with consumers with disabilities. All right. So we can actually, unless there are any questions here, we can come back out to the main page or even just up to the top of the screen. And last, we're going to take a look here at the resource collection. And there are a couple of items that I just wanted to point out to folks that I think are really strong resources that are beneficial both to vocational rehabilitation community as well as adult education community. So if you're able to get to the resource collection, we can talk about that.
I do see that 2 questions came through. Nikki,
okay.
To read those, or would you like me to read those?
You can go ahead since you've got them in front of you.
Okay, great. The first one says, do you provide courses to help someone become an officer for the USDA?
I'm sorry, to become an officer for the
At the USDA.
USDA. I'm not sure I understand, or I'm not sure I'm familiar with what organization that is.
Okay. It says USDA Disaster Response.
Department of Agriculture. Department of Agriculture. I think it's a specific, industry specific, and what we're covering here is more sort of informational, not specific courses for a specific career path. But I'll do a little bit of research on the side and see if we can't find a link for that person asking that question. If you guys want to keep going. Do you say there was another question on?
There was one. It said, can we offer PD at, at our site using these materials?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question, and I apologize I didn't point that out. But if you're still looking at the page for disabilities and equitable outcomes, and you scroll, I believe, all the way to the bottom, or actually it's the listing, I'm sorry, of all of the adult education online courses. If you scroll to the bottom of that page, I believe it, and you go to the Learning to Achieve page again. I'm sorry, I'm confusing myself here. So on the bottom of the Learning to Achieve page, which is under the Disabilities and Equitable Outcomes course listings, there's a statement about professional development. So practitioners can access the Learning to Achieve professional development resources in several ways. Certified trainers may deliver local training sessions or blended experiences that coordinate with self-paced online learning modules. Practitioners may access the online modules on demand for self-study. So if you are interested in using these resources for your own PD, you're able to do that. You can also, though, work with a LINCS certified trainer. So LINCS has trainers. I'm not one of them, but we can certainly send you more information about the trainers who work with individuals on the specific Learning to Achieve curriculum to help you plan and organize professional development that is then recognized by LINCS. But you could also use the resources independently and do your own training if you wanted to attempt that on your own. So there are different ways you might approach that. But yes, they can be used for professional development, would be the short answer to that. All right.
Michael, it's Rebecca. I have another question. So
yes.
You had mentioned earlier that there might be opportunities to start a new microgroup that maybe would focus more on people in vocational rehabilitation who are interested in advancing career pathways. What would the process be? And similarly, if there were courses to add about how to effectively partner with vocational rehabilitation or things like that, is there a way to have a course approved within the LINCS platform?
Sure. So that would be a process I'm not intimately involved with. And the idea of having the microgroup, maybe I'll address that part first. I certainly have tried with and continue to work with LINCS to try and build in more resources that help adult educators understand vocational rehabilitation and work to partner with VR to serve many of the same members that we both share and that we're trying to support in completing educational requirements and going to work. So that's a personal wish of my own that there become a dedicated spot on LINCS that is really providing those resources that help folks, once they've kind of gotten a general education about disabilities, to then look at how it connects with vocational rehabilitation and how we can work together to become less siloed adult education and vocational rehabilitation. So that's something I'm already working with the department on, and trying to move that opportunity or that possibility of having a microgroup in the future, moving that conversation forward. As far as adding courses and adding resources to the resource collection, which we'll talk about next, there is a vetting process. There are reviewers that if members have specific links or resources that we can forward onto the department's review process, and then they make a determination as to whether it meets their criteria for inclusion on the resource collection. I will say that things that can be accessed online by going to a specific URL, excuse me, are not always put through the review process, but can be shared either through a microgroup if we are able to establish one of those, or even just in the discussions or bulletins of the community. So if there's a great resource that you think it would be really helpful, sharing that in the community, providing the URL. Once you are in the discussion group, you can easily, just as you might in a document that you're sending, which you're typing the name and then hyperlinking that name to a website, you can hyperlink things that are available online in the discussion forum. If it's a resource that's not accessible online, but that is in the public domain, those are great resources to refer for the links approval process to see if that's something that meets other criteria. But those are great resources that we would want to make sure that they're more readily accessible. And since maybe they aren't accessible online, links can be a perfect place for individuals to find that resource and to download it.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Sure. Any other questions?
You'd mentioned that folks can get credit for attending some of your courses.
Yes.
Is that continuing education credits, and is there a sort of typical amount?
So the certificates are available once a member has completed the entire course. And again, each course has an estimated number of hours needed to complete. It may take more or less time for an individual to move through those courses, but once the course has been completed, a certificate is available for download and printing and saving as a PDF with your specific course hours that are listed on the site. So, for example, with the Building Strategic Partnerships, it lists 1.5 hours is suggested for the completion of that course, or the Developing Effective Bridge Programs is a 2.5-hour course. And so that's something that once you complete it, it may only take you 2 hours, it might take 3 hours. But depending on your pace, you complete it in whatever time is necessary for you to benefit from the course. And at the end, you would receive a certificate which is verifying 2.5 hours of professional development. And it's really been on a case-by-case basis. We've worked with adult educators, obviously across the U.S., but in different counties who've been able to use that, and in different states who've been able to use that to count towards required professional development by their state education agencies. As far as eligibility to use these courses for hours from, I'm drawing a blank here, but the agency that certifies vocational rehabilitation counselors, so CRC. But I don't know if these would be counted as professional development hours by those voc rehab certification agencies or not. I think it would be definitely worthwhile to find out, and if that's something that folks are interested in. Again, I haven't really been asked that question before, but I think it's a fantastic one, and I think it's one that if we're able to get approval for those, it would be a fantastic opportunity to really help members access these resources and use them, put them towards good use, and get the credit for them.
Yeah, that would be probably a good idea. Is that something, Michael, that you could sort of look into and get back to us, and we could post the answer on the website or something?
Sure. I'm happy to look into that more and to see what our options are there.
Okay, sounds good.
Good. All right. So I believe we were also going to try and take a look here at the resource collection. So if you're able to go to that site, there are two resources in particular that I want to draw your attention to. And just to give you a general idea, if you're looking at that page right now, you should see at the top, Adult Education and Literacy Resource Collection, Explore collection of 738 research studies, materials, and products. Is that what you're looking at?
Yes.
Great. So as you might expect here, the first option is to just type in some keywords and search those resources. Otherwise, it just goes through the courses and lists them sort of in a catalog fashion, displaying 25 results at a time. You also have on the left side topic areas. So if we know that we're interested in career pathways, we can come down, click on the career pathways box, and it will limit the number of resources that are related to career pathways, or also below that, there's also a box for disabilities in adult education. So if you wanted to narrow the search and just look at resources that talk about disabilities in adult ed, you could check that box as well. And if you check multiple boxes, it will again further narrow your results. So I've checked both career pathways and disabilities in adult education, and you see that we have, if you're looking at that, you'll see that we have two results. If I uncheck the disabilities in adult education, we have 234 results that specifically look at or address career pathways. So for the moment, I'd like to just look at the career pathways. So if you check that and are looking at the first 25 of the 235 results, one that I think is a really valuable tool is the Career Pathways Checklist. And this was just published last year in 2017. And it's a checklist that's designed as a work aid to help determine the extent to which newly developed or existing programs meet the requirements for career pathways in Section 3.7 of WIOA. And this is a fantastic opportunity when you're working with programs, again, that are looking to really develop these programs, or who believe they have a strong career pathways program, to kind of use a different lens to help consider whether they're meeting all of those criteria. And this is a PDF that can be downloaded. It's intended to be kind of used as a worksheet in a way. If you're able to download the PDF here, you can see that it's well, actually, if it's probably easier to talk about it if you can see it. So if you can tell me if you're able to access the PDF.
Yes, we have it open now.
Okay, fantastic. So if we scroll down past the opening page and past the acknowledgments, you'll see an introduction and just a couple of questions. What's the checklist for? Who is it for? And how should it be used? So just to take a look at the third question there, how should the checklist be used? It says review each element, letters A through G. So each of the elements, there are several of them there that are each broken down, but they address a specific career pathway definition to ensure that a program is meeting the required criteria. And we've got an example there this program meets this criteria, yes, and then how you know it meets the criteria. It's just really a self-reflective practice to say, yes, it meets this criteria and this is how, or no, we aren't quite meeting that criteria and this is what is needed in addition to be able to address that criteria. And on the following page, it gives the first one, which is aligns with the skill needs of industries in the economy of the state or regional economy involved. And I want to actually just draw your attention to a few that really, I think, highlight supports that can help individuals with disabilities. So letter C includes counseling to support an individual in achieving the individual's education and career goals. So that's language very similar to working within VR and talking about a consumer's individual plan for employment and individualizing it to the person's education and career goals. And that can be something that, again, if an agency is working with vocational rehabilitation, they are addressing that criteria for those consumers with disabilities. They also then need to consider how to provide that for consumers or learners rather who are not consumers of VR, who would not be eligible based on not having a disability. But for those individuals with disabilities, a connection with VR really helps meet that criteria. And there was another I noticed the other day as I was looking through these. Letter E. So it organizes education, training, and other services to meet the particular needs of an individual in a manner that accelerates the educational and career advancement of the individual to the extent practicable. So again, I think this is very inclusive language that really looks at the individual consumer and helps address their unique needs and capacities. And so again, I think this is a great resource. It's a relatively new one, so we haven't had a whole lot of feedback on how it's working in the field, but it's something I would encourage anyone working on career pathways to use and to utilize with those programs to help get a more reflective picture of whether they are truly meeting the requirements of career pathways as it's defined in WIOA, and if not, to not penalize anyone, but to really think strategically about how those programs can best address the needs of learners, and particularly learners with disabilities. So are there any questions or thoughts about the Career Pathways checklist?
I don't see any questions, Michael. I think, you know, as you mentioned, it really does sort of put in one place everything that's sort of covered under WIOA, and breaking it down like that. I know, you know, through Wintec, when we do technical assistance, we kind of go through these things, and certainly, as you mentioned, see with the supports and things, and using the partners and really sort of coming around a person. And so, I would encourage any of the folks that are on listening from VR, as you sort of think through the process of career pathways within your individualized plan for employment, sort of do maybe take a look at this and think about, are you sort of using these touch points, and how is that happening, and how is that being individualized? And, it would be great if anybody does use it, like Michael said, to sort of get some feedback. So if you are a member of our community of practice through Wintec or through the links area, if you join after this, if you're not already a member, we'd all like to get some feedback on that and whether or not it's useful to you. So, yeah, thanks, Michael. I'm trying to have a quick look through. I think unless Shannon, did you get any questions on your end that I'm not seeing here?
I don't see any right away, but I'm still checking.
Okay, I didn't know. Sometimes you get them through your email as well as through the chat, but I think we've covered everything that's in the chat. Okay. So, so I guess we can wrap it up, or were you going somewhere else?
Yeah, one other item I really just want to point out here, and it's really a complementary piece to the checklist. It's called the Career Pathways Toolkit, and I think on the final slide of the presentation today, you'll see
I think we lost our phone connection.
Did we lose Michael?
Mike, would you like to step in, Rebecca?
Sure. Hi, everyone. We did want to share with you some resources, and hopefully if Michael comes back on, he can talk more about it. If you do go to wintec.org, to the website, and click on the Career Pathways link, it will give you an opportunity to both join the community of practice and find wonderful resources that they've posted there, including information about past webinars that the community of practice has held. It'll allow you to get notification of upcoming webinars, so we encourage you to join. We did want to share with you a new resource that Lead Center has put out, which is an Inclusive Career Pathways desktop guide, and there's a link to it here. We were going to share my screen so I could scroll through it, but I think we've had so many technical difficulties that I think I'll just talk about it. So it's an electronic guide that was developed so that it would give people a single place to go to find resources related to inclusive career pathways. And it has resources related to partnerships, job accommodations, strategies for job development, resource coordination, and employer engagement. And right now there are 25 resources that are listed in the resource guide. I think that we in the field are all overwhelmed with the amount of information that's out there. So we wanted to pull out ones that we thought you shouldn't miss, many of which you may already be aware of, but some, like the links website and the resources through Octave, might be things that you're not aware of, and links is one of the things that's included as a resource. We welcome you sending us additional resources. It is something that you can print, but it's also an electronic document, so we can always add resources to it. But it has both tools and websites that you can go to. So there are toolkits that you can use. I think Michael was about to talk about the Career Pathways Toolkit that is available through Workforce GPS and is something you can access through the Wintec website as well. There's a webinar that was done by the creators of the Career Pathways Toolkit that you can access there that can give you more information. But for each of the resources, we kind of gave you a couple sentences on what you should look for in that resource, what it includes, but it's a comprehensive tool that provides you with self-assessment information or things like that. And it also gives you just, again, a few keywords of the kinds of topics that you'll find in each of those. So it provides you with links to our websites, Wintec and LEAD, and links and places like that, the Job Accommodation Network, some of the other technical assistance centers. I don't know if many of you access the EARN website, the Employer Assistance and Resource Network on Disability Inclusion, but EARN has great resources related to employer engagement. There's a site on apprenticeships. So it's kind of like a one-stop place to find resources related to inclusive career pathways. So we encourage you to click on the link or go to the Lead Center website to find it. This slide also provides you with the link to the toolkit that was put together over a couple of years that reflects the 6 key elements of career pathways and gives you resources, toolkits, checklists, and things to help you create partnerships between agencies. And Shannon, if you can go to the next slide. This is a link to the joint federal agency letter on career pathways. So 12 federal agencies agreed to support inclusive career pathways. They're the group that had the final approval for the big toolkit that was put together. So it really pulls together enormous partnerships in the federal government. Michael just walked you through the career pathways checklist that we think is just a very valuable resource. Nikki included a link to Day in the Life videos, and this is something else that you can find on the Links website as well as directly through there. But I scrolled around a bit and clicked on cartoonist because I thought that that was an interesting career to look at. And for each of these Day in the Life videos, it's in a different career path. So the person who asked about a job with USDA, there might be something related there. There might be something that would bring you to a place that could assist with that. But for each of the jobs, it gives you a description. So it explains what cartoonists do, what the knowledge required is, what the skills are that someone needs to do that successfully, what the career path often is for someone who's in that career, the best cities for this job, median annual income, future growth opportunities, and then a few quotes from the field from people who are in that career. So it's an interesting thing to look at, especially if you're working with people who, aren't sure what different careers are. It's little videos and a very accessible way to learn about different careers. And then we've already seen the Links resources on career pathways. Michael was able to spend a lot of time, familiarizing us with the resources that are available. But I think our partnerships with adult and technical education and post-secondary education are critically important. I know Barry's organization, has worked with a community of practice that pulls in community colleges on inclusive career pathways work. So this is a really important area that it's important for all of us to become more familiar with. With that, if there aren't other questions, are there other questions? Then, we appreciate you all coming. I don't know if Brian or Nikki or Barry would like to say any parting words. You have ways to contact all of us. Shannon, if you can go to the next screen. You have our email addresses and you have the Connect With pages that were earlier on in the PowerPoint presentation. Any final words?
This is Nikki. I'd just like to tell everybody thank you for hanging in with us. I know it's been kind of a technologically challenging session today with some of our hiccups and then losing our speaker. So thanks for hanging in with us, and encourage you to go and take a look yourself at that Links website because there are an amazing amount of resources out there. And then, of course, the Lead Center newly released resource list that Rebecca spoke about. That's about it from me. Any of Barry or Brian, any parting words?
Just to thank everyone for sticking with us through it all, and I hope it was helpful. And just remember, if you have any further questions after you've thought about the content a little bit, feel free to reach out to us.
Any special thanks to Shannon for being a technological wizard.
Yes.
To keep this going forward.
Yes.
Indeed. Yep. Thank you all for joining us today. I thought it was great, in spite of the technology.
Thank you so much. I did see one last question come through, and it says, do you have more resources for deaf persons?
Yeah, that came from Martha, and I think we can respond to her. Actually, Martha, would you mind sharing your email address, and we can send you some stuff.
Thank you, everyone.